This is one that you've had to wait a good amount this year. Maybe you didn't wait and you grabbed him off the waiver wire, but it's Cam Akers who is finally coming to life. He is finally living up to the high fantasy expectations that were put on him. And you see there, my favorite thing is that he is their goal line back now. 13 touches inside the 10-yard line since week 11. Henderson and Malcolm Brown combined have 1. So we know that when they get near the goal line, it's going to go to Cam Akers, but that's just not the only good thing. He has seen over 20 touches in 2 straight games. In each of the last 2 weeks, 62% and then 81% of snaps, both the most a Rams running back had played in any game this year. He is just very much so trending up right now, and it comes in a good matchup against the Jets in a game where the Rams could be playing in the second half with a multiple score lead. I would expect a ton of Cam Akers to grind out the clock.
Yeah, I've been very happy to steal that 13 touches inside the 10-yard line stat from you and give you no credit at all because that's what I prefer to do. The only thing, I'm starting Cam Akers and I have no hesitation. But Sean McVay always still scares me. Like he seems like he's setting us up for like the biggest heel turn since Seth Rollins turned on the Shield or MJF turned on Cody or anything like that. Like Sean McVay looks like every movie bad guy from the 80s. So I'm really worried about it, but I still love Cam Akers this week.
Cam Akers finally solidifying himself as the lead back for the Rams. Hopefully he continues that stat line heading into week 15. A surprising must start from Michael F. Florio. All right, give us another guy, Florio.
Yeah, this is one that Hytham, our producer, actually asked me, aren't you sick of talking about this guy? It is Jonathan Taylor. I was hyping him up in the preseason as a potential league winner. I said a couple weeks ago on this show that you should trade for him because I still think he could be a league winner. It took a lot longer than expected, but here we are. He is playing great ball. He gets the Texans this week, who allow the most scrimmage yards per game to running backs. They also allow the second most fantasy points per game, and it is a great matchup at a time where Jonathan Taylor is just playing so great. He had over 20 touches last week. He played nearly 60% of the snaps. That is now 3 straight games with at least 16 touches and over 100 yards. And he is coming off his best game as a pro, which could lead to even more work this week. I think Jonathan Taylor, he is ranked as my second running back this week. I am very, very bullish on him this week.
And I'm assuming Derrick Henry is the #1 back in your rankings, yes, which he should be. You know what's funny? It's the stubbornness that I hold for rookie players pays off now because the 3 rookie running backs we really liked coming into the season were JT, Cam Akers, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Okay, they don't always work out, but you know, this was a guy I refused, but listen, that happens. I'll take 2 out of 3 any day. And the one thing that I've really liked is that he's catching passes out of the backfield. And really, you know, we kind of worried about this coming into the season, that if the abbreviated off season and not having a full training camp or mini camps or anything like that, if it was really going to set these running backs behind a little bit, obviously I believe that it did, but now we're seeing the benefit to anybody who held on to him, or as Mike said, you know, if you did pick him up off the waiver wire late in the season, you're benefiting now, and these guys will likely lead you to fantasy titles.
Benefiting where you need it most in the rounds of the fantasy playoffs. All right, those are 2 running backs. Give me a receiving option that you like this week as a surprising must start.
Yeah, this one is definitely surprising because a couple of weeks ago, I wrote him off, and I think many others did. I said you could even drop him, but it is Jonathan Taylor's teammate, T.Y. Hilton, who also goes up against the Houston Texans this week, and he has just owned the Texans in his career. You see there, over 19 fantasy points per game in 17 career games, and that is no sample size because small sample size, because that is larger than a full NFL season, 17 games. So you're just seeing that he has sustained success against his team, and it is something that we've already seen just a couple weeks ago in week 13. He dropped 25 fantasy points against Houston. That was the second most. At the time, it was his most, but then he surpassed it last week. He has scored 18 fantasy points or more in 3 straight games. He has 4 touchdowns in his last 3, and just with him playing well and the success that he has had throughout his career against his team, I think he is a top 24 wide receiver this week and someone that I very much so would try to get into my week 15 lineup.
Yeah, even if his point total drops by 10 and he gives you 15 fantasy points, I'll certainly take that from T.Y. Hilton. Or if he just, but I think that he'll end up getting closer to his average, which is right around 22 points. So I love this start. And like you, Mike, he was somebody that I Didn't really give up on. I held on to them. One of my teams in the Paul's, I play in this Paul's Boutique League, is I have JT and TY. I didn't let go of either one of them. I held on to them all season. I'm like, there's just something about them. I just didn't want to give up on them, especially with the Houston Texans defense playing so poorly, knowing that they were going to have some playoff matchups. This is when we benefit from that. And just looking over the, having a little foresight and looking, to the future in a lot of these instances.
All right, those were our 3 surprising must-starts for Week 15. Jonathan Taylor, Cam Akers, and T.Y. Hilton. If you have shares of any of those guys, make sure to plug them into your starting lineup so that you can go ahead and secure yourself a fantasy championship.